Remember, 2 years is a long time. Like
A lot happened.
Yeah, a lot happened personally, and just like the business grew more. We got more students online, and now we're really like, people are starting to understand and like know about Mongolian wrestling, right? But for me personally, it's just like, now that COVID's done in China, and we're kind of just free to train and do Nadam, this year is like crazy. Like I finally got some training in, and now like Nadam's almost every day. So now it's like, it feels like it's finally that time where I can kind of go into that direction I was trying to go 3 years ago, and really shoot for all the goals that, you know, I wanted, getting at Janga, being able to travel and stuff like that. So that's really the major changes, and obviously I gained a little bit of weight, so yeah. Yeah, so now I'm really in Shilinhut, in the capital of Shilingo, but I'm also going to Dongsu, to Junsun as well. And really right now, it's kind of like depending on the season. Whenever there's training, I'm gonna go to the training. And I'll probably go, maybe next time, Barong Ujumshin, right? I'm just gonna go where I can kind of get some good training and just evolve. But I'll be based in Shilinhut. I would say like mainly what's gotten deeper is just understanding the mentality, and like, because I'm learning and I've now I understand more of how the Mongolians think. I can understand how they move and why they move that way. So it's also easier for me to maybe express it and tell it to other people, right? But for me personally, just knowing, because there's a difference between being good at Mongolian wrestling and being good as a competitor here, right? Like you look at Dakhrubayar, like he is killing everyone, but is his techniques, is he so versatile? Could he teach Mongolian wrestling to foreigners? Probably not, right? So now I'm kind of figuring out my direction as a Bokkchin, as a competitor, but also evolving as a teacher and as someone that's like studies the art. So before I kind of had it as one thing, just trying to evolve, but I realized that there are two different paths and I'm trying to do both at the same time, which is not so easy, right? Because you're trying to learn everything, but also trying to be the best and realizing that you don't need everything to be a champion. So that's kind of what I'm going through now, but my understanding of like the techniques and strategy has evolved mostly, right? Because I know techniques, but the way the Mongolians do it and the feeling of it is what takes time as a foreigner, you know what I'm saying? Because you have to understand the lifestyle. If you don't understand the lifestyle, how they think, you saw the other day, a lot of circles. And I understand that from Swaija, right? Like we understand that, but seeing how they do it, it's a different feeling, even the way they pull you and drag you. So now I'm starting to say, oh, okay, I know the feeling. Now I can kind of do the same thing as well. And you know, I can feel it slowly. You almost don't realize how much you change until you watch before older clips, or you go against people you went with before. And you're like, oh, they can't do the same thing to me. Oh, I can block all their stuff. Oh, I can move them around like they move me around. So now I know like I've evolved, right? So yeah, that's pretty much the main stuff.
So I've been here for 3 Notams at this point. I had the privilege to be able to compete in them and experience firsthand a different level. I think we come from a slightly different background, but it's actually coming from the same pool.
Yes,
the Taiwanese Shuaijiao scene. And there's little sub-styles within Taiwan even, but essentially it's coming from the same system. I think it's coming from a different context. It was taking stuff from a similar wrestling culture and then saying, how are we gonna feed this to military and police? And how are we going to make somebody who doesn't grow up wrestling things able to move and throw people relatively quickly? But in some ways it's not as deep, and I know you can back me up on this. There's a lot more, what we might think is more complicated movement that the guys here are doing part nature, part nurture, part training, and part just because of the lifestyle. And even just that is a whole nother level. Never mind the difference in the sheer competitive experiences that they have, whether it's Mongol Bokh only, or we're talking about other backgrounds such as judo, freestyle, Shuaijiao, right? As well as their mentality. I feel like our backgrounds kind of had a immediately go, 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 kill, kill, kill type of mentality. And obviously if you're coming from a military police system, you're going to have that commando attitude. Mongol Bokh thus far that I've experienced, and it's only been 3 days, but I can already see that depending on the person and who they're up against, they're going to pull out whatever they need to get that guy to the ground. And it can be blitz them, and it can also be hold for the next 20 minutes and wear them out mentally. There's a certain strategic depth that I don't see in a lot of other arts because of the somewhat unique way that Mongols have set up their way of wrestling. And it brings out a lot of some of the top attributes you would ever want as a martial artist, as a wrestler. So it's quite, for me, it's quite impressive. I think the Taiwanese-based stuff is very good for a certain context, but the Mongolian wrestling is like a much deeper pool.
And you know, I'll add to that too. It's like two things you can think about. It's like adaptability and transferability, right? Like the Mongols here, because you can go against someone, he might be Olympian or national judo champion or Saijiao champion or freestyle. they have so many different things that they all put into one.
Yes.
So you got Mongol Bokh by itself, but then everyone has different backgrounds. So, and everyone's got different sizes. So the way you have to learn how to adapt and also transfer techniques and movements and kind of ideas from other styles into one, you don't really get that with many grappling arts.
Right.
Like jiu-jitsu has some stuff in terms of submissions and stuff, but still because of certain rule sets, it's just a different vibe, it's a different feel. And I've never seen any other people be able to transfer that, like those many styles into one thing and do well, and do well in each one, right?
It feels as though like the Taiwanese style or even any other grappling style we're used to, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, sambo, a lot of these things seem like specializations on just wrestling.
Yes.
Right? Whereas Mongol Bokh preserves a lot of the just core attributes you need for wrestling in any form or fashion. Right? And that's one of the most powerful things that I felt personally just in these past few days. I would say there's many levels. There's levels to this, and you can take that one of two ways. You can say, oh, the benchmark is up here, I'll never get there. Or you can say, well, I went from zero to a decent amateur. If I go from a decent amateur to someone who comes here and puts in a lot of time consistently, then I can eventually be that guy that comes here consistently and starts catching people and starts learning how people move and how people are changing. Because this is an active thing. This is not just a factory that pumps out people. Everyone is constantly competing and trying to improve themselves against one another. To eventually being somebody who is clearly a competitive Bokchin,
Yes.
and then maybe someday a Jangga, and so on and so forth, right? So it's taught me, the biggest lesson would just be that there's nothing here that's impossible. And there's no one here that's invincible. You know, I saw Ujie Batra. He's a legend, and he got taken out by somebody who is technically not as famous, not as skilled, but things happen.
Yep.
And if you consistently apply yourself and you keep immersing yourself in the higher levels, you eventually, it rubs off on you, right? And I think that's the biggest takeaway. You know, I was getting swept all kinds of ways because I just wasn't used to it.
It's part of it, bro.
Yeah, but it's to me, it's a blessing. It's like, oh, I can get to this, right? I might have to climb up 2 steps, 3 steps, 10 steps, 100 steps, but I can get there. You're telling me I can do this? Because he can do this. Awesome, let's do it, right? So I think it's really actually quite inspiring to see so many top dogs all in one area, you know?
Yes, and you know, even watching you, it's like, sometimes in the West, especially, let's talk about Swaijiao and even judo or something, we see a few guys that are decent, are good, and we're like, oh, it's maybe because they're particular attributes, right? Like they're strong or they're fast or they have something that makes them different, but other people can't get to their level, right? But here you see everyone's in a good level, whether they're 5'2", 6'5", 300 pounds, or 120.
Got all kinds of shapes.
everyone's in a good level. So it's like you're like, oh, so we can all get there as long as we stay consistent. And like you experience, like your first day you did pretty good. Second day was harder. Third day, boom, right? But that's the name of the game here, right?
Yes.
And every day is more. It's not even a physical battle; it's a mental battle, right? You're figuring out. You're thinking so much, you start doubting, then you gotta get your confidence built back up again, and it's constant, man. But that's like Mongolian culture. Like that's what Genghis Khan was about. That's what all of this is about. Was like learning to keep surviving, keep living, keep going until you become the top. You know what I mean?
I mean, Bokh durability. I mean, there's physical durability, but then it's also just, can I figure out how to win and keep applying myself no matter what? Right? And I think that's one of the biggest lessons. Absolutely.
My journey. Oh, this summer I have to win some 64-man Nadams. I want to get 128. There's enough Nadams for me to mess up and still try to do it, right? So that's my goal for this summer, is win a 128, possibly win a horse, and if not by next summer, but that's my goal, and then earn my way to that Janga. I don't know how long it would take, but I ain't gonna stop until I get it.
In the immediate future, soak up as much as I can, honestly. It's really a rare privilege and a blessing, you know, to be out here with so many people that are or were pros on the pro level, high level wrestlers, and engaging in Mongol Bokh. So first off is to soak all of that up and take home those lessons, things that I can work on. And after that, but one, eat more, get bigger, get stronger, because now it's not about weight classes and weight class specific tactics and strategies. Now it doesn't matter. You're up against anybody, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and just making some life changes so that I can come out here seasonally and train and compete. Yeah, because it's a beautiful thing, and I want to keep being part of it.
Yeah, and also besides like my personal goals as just a wrestler, this year we finally want to start, me and Huha and Vincent, everyone's going to start teaching and showing people. We want to go to the US, everywhere. We'll start with the US, probably hit London and Denmark, many places. We want to go and share this with the world finally, because Huha's ready. You know, he's healed now from his sickness, which is another crazy story. I have to, you know, that's another interview. But now that things are kind of shaping up, like the universe is telling us, all right, it's about that time, buddy, right? So that's the main thing. It's like getting my skills up, winning some shit, and sharing this art, man. Like that's why I'm here in the first place. So that's it. I think now we're finally building like more people, a close kind of team of people who have the same mind and want the same thing, and that's what we needed, man. So it's coming along.